Welcome back. Today we have a super simple but fun art journal page tutorial. I started with a page that I had done some stamping through drywall tape, as well as I glued some drywall tape onto the page. I'll put a link to the Break the Blank page video where I show you how I did that and broke 10 other pages. So I got a birthday gift and it had this lime green tissue paper in it. And you know you're a mixed media artist when you're just as happy with the tissue paper as the gift that came with it. So as I was putting this away, I thought, I'm just going to put that on the page. Now, if you don't have lime green tissue paper and you want to recreate this page, you can just apply paint, swaths of paint going across your page. Now my goal here is to keep white space available. And I just want to have fun with colors, although I do admit that this color scheme is a little outside my normal comfort zone. But sometimes when you go outside your comfort zone, you discover new things, and that's all great. So the black part that you see on the page, that is where I put the drywall tape and I stamped through it. So that's our very first DIY mark making tool. And I'll be using a couple other mark makers in this video. If I layer up the tissue paper, I get a darker green. And since I like multiple shades of the same color, I'm deliberately doing that to get some darker shades. Now, sometimes with my page, I know exactly where I want to go. I know what my focal image is or my sentiment. I don't have any idea. I just wanted to create, so I sat down. Now, the bag that the gift came in was turquoise, and I guess that was in my brain. So I grabbed my turquoise paint and this punch card stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. And I'm just putting this in three spaces. I grabbed this punch card stencil because there were squares from the drywall tape. So I'm playing up that square motif that was on the page. I got a little bit messy here, so I grab a baby wipe and I'm just wiping it back. And I can do that because there's a coat of gesso underneath. So these colors really work well together. They pop. And then I decide, I'm not sure why, I'm going to add purple. And I start using a makeup sponge to put it, and I go, wait, what else do I have that I can use to make marks? And I grab the Ranger blending foam, the circular, and I dip it in this purple paint, and I'm stamping circles on the page. So this is my second DIY mark making tool. And I start putting it in three places and three circles, but then I'm just having fun and I keep going. Coming back and putting another layer of paint because I want it to be more opaque and a deeper purple. This is Brilliant Purple by Liquitex. It's a color that I rarely use. I use a lot of deep violet and a dark purple, but this one doesn't seem to get much play, so I want to use it. And that was the only reason I chose it. My blending foam keeps coming off. It's kind of lost its Velcro stick. I play with it, I turn it around. I add more circles. I have no idea at this time what my focal image is going to be. And that's okay. I'm kind of following kind of an intuitive the art journal page. I'm just, you know, doing something and then seeing where that leads and making another decision and seeing where that leads. I'm putting back the punch card stencil here and just adding a few more on top of the circles. And I want to add a little contrast, but I'm not sure I want to go with black, so I grab Prussian blue, which is the same tone as turquoise. It's that same blue-green. And I grab this DIY foam stamp. I cut this out of play foam, fun foam, and put it on a pill bottle. I do have a video where I show how to make these stamps, so I will find that and link it. And I'm just adding it. This reminds me of, wrapping paper, a birthday wrapping paper. It's just bold, bright colors and patterns and swirls, just fun. Now I've got the Prussian blue on my makeup sponge, so I'm edging the page with the Prussian blue. I've kept this video fairly slow. I just sped it up, I think, 1.5 times. And I'd like your opinions about whether you like it more real time or whether you like the much quicker sped up videos. So while this is drying, I decide to go through my focal images, my printables and my napkins. And I grab this napkin of this owl, and I note that it has that purple and it has that turquoise in it. So I cut it out right through the 3 plies, and I'm thinking, you know what? Let's just go with it. The scale of the owl is a little bit large for this, so I'm going to put it a little bit off the page. There, I'm just removing the excess 2 plies. I like how the circles in the background kind of go with the owl's eyes. Now, because there's so much marks underneath, I am going to glue this owl down onto copy paper first. That's going to keep the owl mostly white like it is, and you won't be able to see the marks that are behind it. I'm just using fluid matte medium here. My camera doesn't like all the white. And I'm putting a coat on top. This napkin I purchased from ninniesnapkins.com, and there's a link in the description box below. She carries a wide selection of napkins, rice papers, stamps, stencils, and other mixed media and art journaling supplies, so go check her out. Now I'm grabbing my sentiment pack number 3 and auditioning some sentiments. I like the black background with the white letters, but that saying doesn't really work. You are my happy place kind of goes with that. Here comes the sun. I like the boldness of the letters, but the sentiment doesn't go with anything on the page. Think outside the box. Well, we have lots of squares and boxes, but it doesn't seem to be bold enough to stand up to this bright, vibrant page. Then I grab this one, Decisions Determine Destiny. And it kind of spoke to me because, I made a decision to go with some bright colors and to do things that I don't normally do. And that just determined where I ended up, which is making this fun, funky art journal page. And I just really enjoy doing different things than what I normally do. Kind of broke out of my comfort zone. I put everything, all those sentiments back in that plastic pouch. I love those plastic pouches. I use them to store my stamps. I use them to store some small stencils, my sentiments, and odds and ends ephemera. And they fit really great in my IKEA cart. I'll put a link in the description box in case you're looking for some storage solutions. I cut the Decisions Determine Destiny apart. This allows more of the background to show, and I stagger it just because I think that's more appealing to the eye. And if you deliberately stagger it, it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up. I'm using gel medium from the Crafter's Workshop to glue down the owl because it's fairly thick. And then there's texture on the page from that drywall tape. Once that's dry, I cut off the excess that went off the page. I love how it fits around the corner. I really didn't want to cover up too much of that colorful, fun background. Now I wanted to beef up the colors, the turquoise and the purple that were in the owl. So I grabbed the turquoise paint and I water it down a little bit and I'm rubbing it where the turquoise is on the napkin. There's a couple spots and just rubbing it in. This napkin art was very watercolory, so I don't have to be too precise. So I find I'm just rubbing it on and it's just the perfect look. I'm brightening the colors of the napkin right now, just more to match the background and so that the focal image actually stands out. Here I'm adding some of the purple. I grab the purple that I have for the circles, but then I grab the dioxazine purple, which is a darker purple, and it just gives me that right level of color. Now I'm with that purple, I'm going to do some shading on those circles. I want them to stand out a little bit more. I like how they're matching the eyes of the owl, but I want them to be a little more interesting. They're looking a little too flat right now. So I'm just adding a little bit of shading with the dioxazine purple. And then I'm coming in with some Prussian blue as well. You get both of those tones in there. And it just, when I added the Prussian blue, it just really made it tied everything together because it has that turquoise tone and it just worked. Needed a couple more stamps in certain places because it was empty now that I know where everything's going. and making sure everything is dry before I get out my Posca pen. You don't want any wet paint when you go and use your markers. I'm outlining this with black. To make it stand out, because the sentiments with the napkin are the focal image together. Whitening up the eyes to make them stand out a little bit. Then I decide, I'm going to do some stitching around the circles to make them stand out even more. So I challenge everybody, go and make a page. I don't care what color, what focal image, but make a page with lime green, purple, and turquoise. And then come and post it in my Facebook group, Art Journaling and Mixed Media Creations. I decide that I want to make the letters bolder. The font that I had printed this out on was a little faded, and for this page, I wanted it to stand out a little bit more. The shading and the outlining and the brightening of the colors, that's all part of the finishing. And those are the steps that really make your page or your project. And then I decide I'm going to do some sketchy lines. The napkin already has that, and I'm just going over those, adding some of my own with the Posca pen. Just again to make the focal image stand out a little bit more on the background. It's competing with a very bright, bold background. So it needs a little bit of strengthening. I could have added color with the yellow there and the orange and the beak. I just made a choice not to bring out those colors because they're not in the background. Now I'm shading around the focal image with black in an effort to make this focal image stand out even more, giving it a shadow behind it. This pushes the background behind, kind of gives it that 3D look. And then I shade around the edge with that black. And that's the perfect finishing touch. If you don't have the Ranger blending tools, you can make your own circular stamp using fun foam. Just cut a circle, whatever size you want, and mount it on a piece of cardboard, on a pill bottle top, hairspray lid, and there you have a stamp. Thanks so much for joining. Are you going to take the challenge? Until next time, go get creative.